the opening drive by the Lions that resulted in a touchdown that was taken off the board. That just was a strange sequence.
Right.
Because it was one of those moments where they say after consultation, but man, it felt like somebody got in somebody's ear and helped when they're not supposed to help. There's the play.
Right.
And it was one of those, it reminded me of the Trevor Lawrence play. Like, it looks like a disaster, and all of a sudden it ends up being a touchdown.
Yeah,
he's bobbling the ball. It comes back to him. Could have been picked off and taken the other way. There was an issue with him not getting set.
Yeah. Which is a weird one, and maybe we can continue.
Was it two guys in motion?
It wasn't two guys in motion, but for the quarterback in that instance, when he gets close to the center, acting like he might go underneath, he needs to basically take a step back and set for a second to basically declare like, hey, I'm no longer underneath the center, and now other things are options for our offense, right? And I think that's what it is. Now, and I'm full transparency. I didn't really understand this rule totally either. I always thought the rule was if the quarterback didn't put his hands underneath the center, he could move at any moment. But as we heard Terry McAuley and everybody talk about last night, the fact that he even gets close enough and then he's right there behind the center acting like he might have to go underneath, or it's close enough to where, not everybody on defense can be like, wait, is he under? Is he not? I'm not sure. They want you to take a step back, pause for a second, then go in motion. Or he should have just gone right in motion, and then he had to pause again at the very end. Right? It had to be one of the two. And I believe that's as good as I'm going to do as far as explaining that right now.
And is that the manifestation? And this may be one of those where you do it for so long, you forget things you knew, and then you start forgetting things that you think you knew, but you didn't even know.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It does
what am I
sense.
forgetting?
Right.
Am I forgetting something that I just made up?
And sometimes college has different rules, so you're like,
wasn't this something that they put in place? Remember when Johnny Manziel walked over toward Kyle and was hanging around on the sideline?
Mike McDaniel on the sideline.
Didn't they do some sort of a rule to discourage that?
That might have been the rule of like a little bit like where you got to go running. You got to run in between the numbers, right? Or there was something there at some point in the play. You couldn't stay over there the whole time.
Right. He went over and stood and acted like he was leaving the play, but he stood there and he took off and he was wide open. But just this idea that because I thought that, what game was it? It was the Rams 49ers game, Thursday night, week 5, where during that weird, what are the Rams going to do here, 4th and short, there was a moment where Matthew Stafford was trying to get him to draw offside, and he started to walk away, and I thought they're going to snap the ball to Kyron Williams.
Right.
Because we've seen that move before, but I feel like, and this is where have I forgotten something that wasn't even true in my mind?
No.
Did they put a rule in place to discourage that gimmick? Because that's what that felt. That's what that seems to be addressing.
Yeah.
When the quarterback takes off like that, is he running off the field? What's going on? Is he still in the play? What's happening? So stop. So all he had to do was stop.
All he had to do was stop. When he first backed out, if he just backed out and stopped for a second and then went, he would have been okay. Or he goes over there and then he's got to stop as a wide receiver and line up and give it a full count before they say set hut. Now, what I always go is, what are they protecting against? I don't know. Maybe it's what you talked about. This is Jason and Garrett and I. We were not 100% all over this rule as we were talking about it back in the green room, and we were going, yeah, but what are they trying to protect within the spirit of the rule that might happen there? Maybe it's what you're saying, but I know we do see a lot of plays where quarterbacks stand behind the center, they don't get underneath, and at the last second they get underneath and take a snap and go. Right? So I just don't understand what they're trying to protect within the language of that rule there exactly. But to your point, that was a big moment of the game. It was a close football game. Yeah, they could have got out there early, scored a touchdown. Instead, they settled for 3 there in that moment. And, who knows what would have happened there. But certainly odd, and certainly some things I learned there about the NFL and the rule book.
Well, and I still don't know what I've learned or haven't learned.
No,
I'm gonna scan through the rule book.
I think we're gonna have
maybe
to unpack
if we figure it out. Yeah, maybe it's something for Wednesday where we'll do the full after further review and explain exactly what happened. The Johnny Manziel trick play, according to Gary, was a violation of 2 rules.
Yeah,
2 rules, and that was what Dean Blandino, who was the VP of officiating at the time, said. What Blandino said is a receiver cannot line up less than 5 yards from the sideline.
Right.
at the bench area, that's a foul. That's a hideout play. So that rule was already in place.
Yeah.
But I just remember something vaguely where there was a rule put in place, and this is like, am I making up something I've forgotten, where it was aimed at combating this idea of the quarterback pretending to be calling timeout and walking to the sideline.
Yeah,
and they
right.
snap
We've
the
seen
ball
that
to
before.
a guy who's
Right.
there. And we haven't seen it in a long time,
No, you're
which
right.
makes me think they've done something.
Maybe they have. I'm not sure either.
Because nothing would signal that the quarterback isn't truly walking to the sideline on a timeout, unbuckle the chin strap, whatever that move is that makes you think the play's not going to happen.
Right.
If he stops, then that the play could happen. And that is surprising to me that the Lions would have that flaw in their
that
in
they
their
wouldn't be
execution,
all over it. Right.
that they wouldn't stop,
Right.
that they didn't understand, because they clearly either didn't know the rule or didn't properly communicate to Jared Goff
that you
have
to take
stop.
a step back and stop. Right. Yeah. It is interesting. It's the second time we've seen them push the limits within rules of trick plays. Right. We do have the Dan Skipper, I'm eligible, but 4 guys ran up to the referee. Remember that against Dallas a few years ago? But yeah, they push the limits. They're creative. They certainly are. But
Gary, put that back in there that you just took out.
They ran into a buzzsaw last week. This week, certainly. They found a team that was as chippy as they have been throughout the year. The Chiefs knew they were in a must-win moment, and they rose up to the occasion and played some big-time football, and especially in the fourth quarter. I mean, they really controlled the fourth quarter of the football game. The Lions put the drive together. What did they make it? 20-17, and the Chiefs answer right back, no problem. Boom, get a stop, get a field goal, and that was all she wrote. So big win for Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
There's more on this Manziel play that Gary's put in the sheets, but we'll take it all under advisement, and we'll have a full and complete explanation by Wednesday as to exactly what went on. Now ask the league too, because I feel like it was something that nobody expected.
Right.
It's not a usual thing, and it's very hard to unpack it all in real time, as evidenced by the fact that we've had hours and we still don't know what the hell happened.
Well, we had Travis Kelce. He played really well last night, and he looks like he's actually moving better than I thought he would even be able to at this point of his career, honestly. I'm not going to lie there, right? And then I think the other thing that we got to hit on here before.
Let me say this about Kelce.
Yeah.
Because, again, and I always preface this by saying I love Travis Kelce. He's a first-time Hall of Famer, walk right in the door. I think the loafing from Chris Jones last week, I think that was a way to light a fire under multiple of the older guys who maybe aren't going all out all the time.
Yeah,
because
right.
He was on the Devin Lloyd play. He tapped out and walked off the field while the play was still live.
Right.
And I think the message to everyone is you got to keep pursuing the ball because you never know what's going to happen. Nobody ever knows what's going to happen. There could be a fumble 70 yards down the field, and now it's coming this way again. If you sacrifice one of your players, it's 11 on 10.
Yeah.
If you just assume it's over, pursue, go all out. We saw it in the Week 2 game against the Eagles after the ball bounced off of his hands. Guy takes off. He's done.
There. Right.
So I think that it may have been an occasion in the meeting room with the Chris Jones stuff to say to everyone.
Yeah. Right.
No
don't
more
care
of this
who
stuff.
you are. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't disagree. And that's a group there that Kelce, Chris Jones, being around them a little bit, they'll be mad at themselves. Right. They'll hold themselves accountable. They'll man up and say what they've done. And then I think there's other guys in that locker room, let alone the coaches and Andy Reid there, that know and have the Midas touch as far as what buttons to push on these guys as well. They have great leadership there. There's a reason they've been to 5 Super Bowls and won 3 of them. So that's no doubt. And then they got coaches on both sides of the ball who know how to lead the charge too. And the one thing I worried about last night was, you lead the charge, but this is the Lions. The Lions, their big O-line, are they going to steamroll you? Are they going to control the game that way? And there the Chiefs were again. Not only did the offense come out aggressive and know that they have to attack, because I think they were a little scared by the Detroit Lions offense on the other side of the ball, the Chiefs play a different brand of style on defense too, Mike. I know I talked about them changing it up. The other thing that jumped out to me is they played more big people in the game. They kept linebackers on the field a lot more. They're usually, a nickel football team, as we know most teams are in the NFL. But I saw a number of snaps where, 2-3 linebackers on the field, Right? And I think that caught the Lions by surprise a little bit. I think that's one of the reasons they didn't get the run game going. And I think you couple that with it looks like Spags changed up some coverages. Oh, that ended up in a big win, and those were some of the big reasons why.
I think I found the rule.
Yeah? You think you did?
Rule 7, Section 4,
right.
Article 3.
Right.
Section 4 deals with action at or before the snap.
Right.
A T formation quarterback. It is legal for a T formation quarterback to go in motion, whether he has placed his hands under center, on his knees, or on the body of the center. However, it is a false start if the action is quick and abrupt. If the player fails to come to a complete stop for at least 1 full second prior to the ball being snapped, it is illegal motion.
Right. So let's show the play again, because I think it's important there. Because, yes, what we saw from Jared Goff is he got close enough to look like he might be underneath the center, and then he just goes.
And I assume that's T formation.
Yeah.
That's T formation. He's under center, right? He's going under center, and it doesn't matter about touching the center or anything like that. You just have to stop for a second.
Yeah,
that's
he's getting too close to where they're going. Basically, you're too close. You look like you're about to go underneath the center. We don't want the other team at a disadvantage to go, wait, is he playing quarterback? Is he not? Whatever. So you got to give the defense a second to declare what's going on. And here in this moment, there was no declaration because of the, wait, it looks like I'm underneath the center, and then I just go. And there is what we're saying. So it either has to be he gets out from the center, he pauses and then goes in motion, which he didn't do, or he needed to get out here at receiver and stop for a second, and then Montgomery says set hut, and then they throw it out there to him.
So
and
just to summarize, it's legal. It's legal to go in motion, even if you've put your hands under center, on your knees, or on the body of the center.
Right.
If it's a quick and abrupt motion, it is a false start.
Yeah.
And if the player fails to come to a complete stop for at least 1 full second prior to the ball being snapped, it's illegal motion. That was the rule that was applied there. So
there we go. That's it.
And I feel like the Lions, when it comes to their offensive execution, they are habitual line steppers. The Dan Skipper thing from a couple of years ago was deliberately intended to confuse
That's what I was talking
the
about
opponent.
A minute ago.
And they confused. You confuse the referee. That's why they got flagged. But the other thing, and we talked about this in the viewing room last night, this drives my son crazy, the silent count pointing that we see from the guards.
Right.
The Lions do it in a way that seems to be intended to induce someone to jump.
Yeah, they can be.
There's a different jerkiness to
jerky
it.
with it.
Like you see, and you know the way the silent count is, there's something about the signal to the center, and it comes from the guard, and it's almost like that. Like they do it very, very abruptly, and and it's like, well, how is that not a false start?
Yeah, well, they're the kneecap biters. They push the limits, like you're talking about.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.